Don't. Why won't she? Come on, Lara. Oh. No. Please. Many deaths.
So the only purpose for this is, I don't know.
Okay. So again, this is kind of these are moves that you wouldn't expect Lara to make. So the fact that I've put this in as what appears to be a critical path route is a bit silly. Now I was kind of hoping this was the critical path. So let's just try this. Okay, so again you see I'm taking a big hit on the health there, which is not good design. Is there a way of doing that without losing health? I'm kind of hoping so. Maybe my younger hands knew the secret. So this is a secret. No, it isn't. So again, against my better judgment, the weird jump I just made there, which is really not kind of something that you will have learnt from playing the previous levels on this game, it has given me a kind of a dopamine hit of discovering a new area. Now forgetting how to control the game through fear and exhaustion. Much of the design of Tomb Raider was preventing the player from getting out of the play area. And with such an extensive moveset, it's often quite difficult. And also when she's on top of things repeatedly, certainly in an area like this where she's on the rooftops, you've got to corral her in a way that's going to stop her from jumping off or out of the play area. So I mean, this is really effectively like a kind of hidden area, but it's not. This is actually the critical path, which is not fantastic design. I had to find a way of bridging these two areas. So I do remember thinking that a crane was a clever idea, and also this helped me with the aesthetics of the level, because this helped with me thinking about covering the buildings with builder's sheeting, which is not the correct term. So this is nice. Well done, Crystal Dynamics and Saber. Amazed I did that. So again, I've lost health. So it seems to just be an entire level of losing health. Okay, so looks like I need to be going around there, doesn't it? So the next step in my nightmare. So you can't get onto there. That's certain death that way. So we'll look this way. That's certain death that way. So the point is here, there's no real clear route. So one of the core rules as well was obviously that you can't jump. You can only jump backwards off a slidable slope, unfortunately, or not at all. In this case, I can see little. Well, I can see little illuminated areas. Nothing that's really giving me much of a clue. Can I get over there, I wonder? Nope. I needed to create a way of getting between these two areas, and so this was how I did it. And it's really just so, we've got this block here, which is really just there as a traversal tool. And sometimes you have to do that, sometimes you will have to kind of build links between parts of your level. You can slide down there. Again, I'm going to take a big health hit. I think I can get onto there. Can I get onto there? Yeah. Where is that going to take me exactly? Is that a flat section? I'm sure it is. Again, how's that helping? Come on, Andy. So there is another part of the crane there, which I seem to remember building a gap into it. Yeah, I can see a platform. Okay, yeah, I see. Okay. I don't see really, but I'm just saying that. And then I've died. So I don't want to go down that side. Wow. So I can just do a little tiny jump. Laura. Nope. No way out from that one, I'm afraid. Yoch. First plant. You can probably get onto there, couldn't you? Nope. Okay. Looked promising that one though, didn't it? Right. Okay, so I've got nowhere to get down there. It's a real shame, isn't it? It was worth a try, wasn't it? Yeah. So I'm back in the hub again. Again, these little crawl spaces are really just ways of linking together chunks of the rooms that contain puzzles. So a little fella again. Gallows tree, always one for the cheerful names. Obviously, again, we didn't have textures.com back then, so it was just simply a case of taking photographs of interesting textures. And so the process here was really that we would take the photos and then we would get the photos developed and then we would scan the photos because there was no direct digital transfer. And so there was usually a massive queue for the scanner once we got a batch of photos in. Although saying that, Joby did have one of the first digital cameras, which was about the size of a small Volkswagen. And so I talked about this before, so it's kind of it's a bit of a signposting fail as you can't really see the loose stone there, so it needs to be flagged up a bit. So perhaps I should have used some yellow paint. So this caused a lot of bugs, very similar to the flares, I believe. If you dropped the flaming torch down a hole, I think you needed it for a puzzle. So it's not a torch; it's an iron clapper. So where does this go again? And again, really, we've got little in-game cutscenes, more frequent here than there were in previous games, but we're still bookending it really. So this is a Celtic graveyard. Always big on graves, graveyards, gravestones. That'll be a shed somewhere on my travels. So it's certainly a much more enjoyable game when you don't feel as if you're going to die every 5 seconds, but I suppose it's a much simpler piece of level design, but much more satisfying really. But not a huge amount of people played this, I don't believe. Okay, so I don't know where I'm going. So that's the world tree that I need to burn the roots of. So again, we're getting into the Andy Dark levels. Although, again, admittedly, the levels are brighter in the original version. So I'm looking for a torch with which to burn the roots of the world tree, which I felt was a clever puzzle. So we were running out of ideas really, as kind of shown by Pete Sennett in Tomb 4. We were kind of raiding anything we could for puzzle ideas. I used to go to my girlfriend's house and ask her boys Richard and Johnny if they had any ideas for puzzles. Must have been quite exciting for teenagers to be part of Tomb Raider. Although as teenagers, obviously they didn't show it. Right, here we go. There's something there. Don't know what it is. No. Oh, that's a shame. I do apologise for flicking over to the old version repeatedly. It's just that I'm so used to looking at it that I can't remember which is which sometimes. But back here again. Am I missing a switch or something? And again, putting the pit there with the route around it, it's much calmer, more mellow level design where I'm a lot more comfortable with the tools and not overestimating the player, but at the same time just understanding they don't want to be under constant stress. You need downtime. That's probably from Greyfriars Graveyard in Edinburgh, where we spent an afternoon looking for the Covenanters' graves that we then found and couldn't get into. Apparently there's quite a hectic poltergeist that haunts it. So from a level design perspective, you'd expect there to be some reason for all of these, not just set dressing. It doesn't have to be. It's the one with the torch in it that makes you think it should have a purpose. So this would be the ideal place to put. There you go. Okay, so mildly confusing from an affordance perspective because I've used the same object for the clapper and the torch. So what Sabre and Crystal Dynamics have done here is that they've illuminated that chamber, which is a good idea. And the fact this is kind of a three-way solution as well, it's quite nice. 3 stages, get the torch, get the flame. You don't actually get a prompt there, so that's interesting. You know, so that's a reward in itself that you are using your own brain to work out what's doable with the tools that you have. I think the idea of heart came from Angel Heart. I always remember the unfolding of the newspaper with the heart in the middle of it. So it's quite a striking and unpleasant image, really. So Alan Parker, so a very underrated British director. So I've been onto this crane and spent many an hour down the back of the crane there, which was effectively a secret. So I couldn't get back onto this section here. So I've had to reload effectively. There's one thing this level teaches you, it's how to use the move set and the tank controls. Spoke too soon. I'm in a new area, more through luck than judgment. Again, we're drawing a big chunk here. I mean, the draw distance obviously turns it off, but that's a big chunk of polys for a PS1. So I can see a little platform down there, and I'm really hoping that isn't where I'm going, but I imagine it probably is. So can I make that? I mean, it's ridiculous. I should never have to make that, but I'm going to give it a go. Can I make that jump? Why would I want to make that jump? Oh, don't. Why won't she? Come on, Lara. Oh. No. Please. Many deaths. So this really is environment as a puzzle. I have no idea what I'm supposed to do, and I built it. Wow, mad skills. It's like if you gave a cow a game controller. So again, I've always got something in the way of the jumps, which is not, from an affordance perspective, is not helping the player. I really don't think I had the player's best interests at heart, to be quite honest with you. I'm going to come out there and say it. Right, I got onto it anyway. Okay, so that was a kind of a fluke, and I'm really hoping that isn't the critical path. Good grief. I really hope players didn't have to go through what I just went through there. So I've got to be able to get somewhere from here, right? So you can pull yourself up into barbed wire, I know that. That's Phil's doing the final shot, Call of Duty style. Phil was ex-army, so he enjoyed shooting. Phil will kill me for saying that, obviously. See, again, because of the difficulty of this level, that actually does give me the heebie-jeebies. And that is what Height Jeopardy is all about, and that's kind of the degree what... I mean, Dark Souls uses it as well, but it does give you a sense of how minuscule you are. Okay. This is Joe's animation. So what happened to the Flu Room key and the weird platform with the yellow paint? Yeah, colour me confused. Looks like I've just completely broken my own level. Outstanding.
Who are you working for?
Retiring from you.
Then you might like to mind the bell.
So I'm guessing we must have sat down with Vicky for this one, or I must have sat down with Vicky, because that's basically taken the riffing on the... Wow, that was hard. That was riffing on the Raiders of the Lost Ark flying wing sequence. So that was really kind of all over the place. There's no kind of through line to that. There was no direct critical path. But anyway, done. So when is that door open? So from a game perspective, it's gating the player, but from a common sense perspective, it doesn't really make sense. And, you know, making sense is kind of what a lot of junior game designers get tied up on and freaked out by. But here's a bit of a tip. If you distract the player with shinies, it doesn't really need to make sense. The player will forget about it. In this case, the shiny being the Father Ted cutscene. So we were always influenced by films, and this was influenced by The Lair of the White Worm, which was directed by another possibly underrated but certainly insane British film director, Ken Russell. And I remember a striking image of a worm in a well, which I think influenced this kind of pit. So also it saved a bit on modelling because we kept the worm as monster POV, which is quite a common camera technique in horror films and in games. So you're basically seeing through the monster's eyes. If you think about a prowler lurking in a bush in a slasher movie, and another good example would be the camera representing the Evil Dead in the film The Evil Dead. But I'm quite pleased with the way that I'm obviously setting up the objectives within the cutscene, which is quite important and useful piece of level design. I've gated the player here so that obviously now you have another route out. So you've got a classic bit of the old exposition here with the explaining the iron, which ideally will make you realise that the iron clapper you have can be used against the demons or the imps, that sort of thing. One of the most important things about writing for video games is getting rid of all the NPCs out of the cutscenes in some plausible fashion. So basically, in a lot of cases, you can't kill the NPCs. So in games with guns, you've got a lot of issues with this. So, you know, I wrote Shell Shock 2 disgracefully, and lots of issues there with getting characters out of the scenes before the player could shoot them. In FPSs, players will try to shoot anything that isn't tied down. So in this case, you know, he's just gone. But, you know, like cutting in between scenes in films, you don't really need to explain everything in minute detail because the player is going to assume he's gone to do his a particular thing. See, this is really nice because I've got all the quick routes coming back to the hub, so this is good level design, so I'm quite pleased with myself. So what do I do with this heart? So you'd think you'd be able to burn that tree, wouldn't you? So I wonder whether they had nav mesh. I wonder whether they had a nav mesh, an early nav mesh. So do I go out here? So I obviously can't get back up there. So this is a shame because this is the only part I'm kind of confused at, really. This, without the weapons, this becomes very much like a kind of escape room, which I know that the Tomb Raider escape room recently closed, we had a local escape room that I took the students to as a welcome week introductory trip, and I contacted them afterwards and said, well, if you need any pointers on creating escape rooms, I'm kind of used to doing that. Did it for 5 years working on Tomb Raider, never heard anything back. And the point of that story is, don't ever believe your own hype. And so the other issue with that, of course, is that if I did a real world escape room, some of the actors might end up getting killed through frustration from the players. I've got some memory of putting it in the fire. Ah, bum. Ah. Okay. So this is the Evil Dead camp. My attempt at it anyway. Okay, so that has opened a door. That made no sense at all. If that had clearly been a shrine of some sort. So there needs to be some sort of clear link here between the heart and the hole in the wall. So, you know, something like a sign or a pentagram, for instance, under the corpse when it appears on the gallows tree, and you could have a repeat of that of the pentagram symbol on the wall. So that's Deus Ex, where she's used the iron clapper herself without any player interaction. So that's taken away player agency, which is not great. It would have been much nicer if you'd done that yourself. But at the minute, the solution is kind of stuffing a heart in a hole that it opens the door. So goodbye to any previous logic that existed. Here we are again with the old blind jump. Can't really see. Right, I think I've just seen where I'm supposed to be going. That's just luck. So I think one of the Tomb Raider events, somebody actually told me that they were really freaked out by this level, which does surprise me. But I suppose if you're younger and you're watching your dad playing it, I suppose it's not entirely pleasant. Armless corpses asking for their heart back, and old men unable to use the controls. Okay, so just a final note here. This was kind of my favourite part of any of the building. This is my favourite part of any of the Tomb Raider games. The labyrinth is based around the name of the rose, Umberto Eco, which I would like to say that I read the book. Actually, I did read the book, which took me quite a long time. But it's the labyrinth based around Piranesi's labyrinths, but my own blocky cubic version of that. Something to look forward to playing, especially all the bugs in it, but more on that next time. Okay, let's leave it there. So thanks again for continuing to watch. Please like as much as possible and subscribe. That tells YouTube that you like the content and allows me to make more of it. So thank you. See you in the next one. Not sure why sunglasses represents loading and saving games, but what do I know?